Well, welcome back. You are watching the Sunday Footy Show, joined on the panel now by one of our esteemed coaches of the competition. We'll join him in just a moment as we reflect on the goings-on at Cardinia Park yesterday. It was another 4 points to the Cats.
Yeah, they got it done by 42 against Adelaide yesterday, TJ, and a pretty emphatic performance. Adelaide had some moments. They kicked a couple of run-on goals in the third quarter, but it just felt like Geelong were always in control. They dominated inside 50s, plus 25 for entries. They're really competitive around the ball. We've shown their tackles, and the coaches here, Chris Scott. Chris, thanks for coming in.
No worries, Kane. Good to be here.
7-4 in a really good position. We've spoken a little bit about your draw coming up. It's favourable. How are you assessing the team so far this year?
I think we're building. We've had some young players come in over the last 6 weeks or so that have really had an impact. I mean, Sam De Koning's been in for the whole year and he's kind of leading that pack. But we think after the bye we'll get some personnel back, which will help as well. There'll be a bit of challenge there because I think we'll have 5 or 6 coming back around the same time. So obviously we won't be bringing them all back together, but I feel like we're building. Probably challenge you a little bit on the draw. I look at the draw and I'm a bit circumspect about it.
All coaches are though.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you would have a better perspective on it than I do because I look at every game and get nervous about it.
Yeah. 100 tackles. Do you rate tackles as a stat?
I think it's just changed over the years. It's a bit like pressure. I think it's a really hard stat to interpret. So I personally don't pay as much attention to pressure as some others. However, Tom Atkins, with his pressure points and 17 tackles, at some point, the number just gets so big that you've got to take some notice of it.
Chris, you mentioned Sam De Koning a moment ago, and when you talk about him, there's a bounce in your voice and a smile on your face when you've just mentioned that name, Sam De Koning. What's he mean to you? Young player bursting through the ranks.
Well, he's been huge. We're excited to get him into our footy club. One of the challenges with really young key position players is that, one, they can take a little bit of time to develop. He was a little, we thought, physically immature to play against men really early on. But the other thing, at 204 centimetres, there was some internal debate around whether he was a ruckman, a key forward or a key defender, even though he's an underage sort of all-Australian full-back. But besides the stuff he's doing for us at the moment, from a list management perspective, when you can solidify your key position players, or you can have some players that you think have got the potential to play 12, 14 years. When you go to the draft, you don't really need to draft for position as much. You can just take the best talent. And we know midfielders are safer picks.
So he stays at centre half back now for that 14 years?
Well, I think he does, but I've been wrong on these things before. So we try to keep an open mind with our younger players, but I suspect if we played him forward in the ruck, he'd play pretty well. But we've got to move him away from key defence for that to happen, and I can't see that happening right at the moment.
2 players I want to ask you about. You mentioned Tom Atkins, 100 pressure acts yesterday, gets all the small forward jobs. So, and the very best clubs, Fremantle, Brisbane, Melbourne, have got great small forwards. So not only the pressure acts, but he gets the best small forward every week. Yeah,
it's been a really interesting transition for Tom because he came through our VFL program, local Geelong boy, just played his way onto our list through his VFL performance. Really, we could sort of only find a spot for him in our team as a pressure forward. Then Matty Scarlett was instrumental in sort of trialling him back, and he did really well. In the last couple of weeks, he's gone into the midfield and done that well as well. So he's developed into a really well-rounded player, and he kind of, we think, when we're playing well, he symbolises the energy and the pressure and the hardness of our team.
Chris, you're so busy, obviously focusing on Geelong, but do you take the time to sit back and watch the Melbourne Fremantle game too? It seems that we all look at being top 4 and look into what went on there with Fremantle and Melbourne, or you got too much to worry about with your own side?
No, I mean, the game started pretty quickly after our game yesterday, and I tried to watch a bit of it because I agree with you. I think watching the best teams is really important, and they're 2 of those pretty clearly. I haven't really analysed it all that much, except that I think Melbourne started so well that you think, okay, this is, they're just going to play away. So it's the first time I've seen a team really not only be able to arrest the momentum against Melbourne, but take the game away from them. And I think, again, this is really superficial, but Stephen May going out of the game just highlights to me that, Dustin Martin last year, 1 or 2 players, even in a seemingly unbeatable team, can make a huge difference.
Chris, I want to ask you about comments made by Kane on this show last Sunday, and you've addressed them through the week. In fact, it's been sort of a narrative through the week as to whether Patrick Dangerfield needs to lose weight. I don't know if you were asked about Patrick Dangerfield specifically in your media conference this week. You went on to talk about Tom Brady and other athletes. Does Patrick Dangerfield need to lose weight?
Well, our people don't think that that's the case, and we really back them in. And Pat doesn't think it either, but I do understand the logic behind it, and it's worthy of consideration. He's such a powerful player, and his strength has been a real asset for him. We think he can play for a number of years yet, and I think there's really strong logic from people, in addition to Kane, that really know their stuff, people in the sports science field, that I know quite well, have the view that as you get older, dropping a few kilos helps your longevity. So it's worthy of consideration. And one thing with Pat that I've noticed over the years, his control of his physical status is amazing. If he decided to lose a couple of kilos, he could do it in a month, I reckon.
And Chris, what role would you see if he's to play for another 2 or 3 years? Do you see him as a forward, or is that to stay in the midfield? What do you think for his longevity?
Well, for longevity, I think it'd be easier for him to play forward. Everyone knows deep forward's a piece of cake. But I'd like to think that he's in the mindset that he wants to be the best midfielder in the competition. He's never been a player that's relied on. He's different to, say, Kane, who uses aerobic power to get around the ground. Pat's always been a burst player. So it'd be a balance of experimenting whether being a bit lighter is going to take away from his speed and power. Who knows? Being a bit lighter. The best way to get quicker if you're a track and field athlete is to get a bit lighter. Look, the thing that excites me is the last few years he's been limited with various ailments. And that's one of the reasons early this year we've decided to hold him back until after the bye so we can get him in his best shape late in the year as opposed to early.
4:19 on Friday, I got an email from the club applauding you beating Reg Hickey's record, which was great. There's the media release there, but right down the bottom, buried in the detail, was the fact that you'd re-signed. Why was that done with such little fanfare?
Well, I don't have much control over this, if any. I suspect it's because it was agreed to in October. And there was just a little bit of a delay in terms of the actual formality in signing the contract. But that's kind of the way I felt about it. So,
did you want it to be understated, or?
Oh, well, I always do. I wouldn't, I think coaches should take a back seat. And even things like the record, with the greatest respect to the great coaches that have gone through history, I've never considered coaching to be an individual game. We have a coaching team, and I was so fortunate to land at Geelong, the sliding doors moment where I arrived as a 34-year-old head coach who was really unsure of my capacity, and I was just supported so well. So when you look at Geelong's record over the last 12 years, I think it's more a reflection of the whole club rather than me. So yes, I do feel a bit uncomfortable, right?
Let's take a look at the votes, TJ and Chris, because it was a pretty even performance. I just thought Tom Stewart, he's got 3 All-Australians. He's well on his way to getting a 4th. Cameron's just maximum damage per touch. Selwood had 15 in the first half and 13 tackles, so he got a nomination for the vote, and also Rolly O'Brien. Back into Adelaide side was really strong in the ruck.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you, 50 metres or not? Oh, sorry, we'll do the prize pack first.
Let me get the prize pack, Lauder. It's just behind me because it's stacked. The gift card from Luxury Escapes, your one-stop shop for the world's best escapes experience. Flights at great prices, hand-picked by experts. Discover a better way to travel, luxuryescapes.com. There's the Callaway golf bag, plus a tour cap as worn by the world #1, John Rahm. The Travis Matthews pack, it's a perfect polo, shorts and pants for every occasion. There's the Aquila shoes, pair of those, magnificent premium quality footwear since 1958. The bar fridge, a custom-designed bar fridge from Bar Fridges Australia. Keep your drinks cool in the fridge with your name on it. The Ricks Eyewear, a pair of Ricks Eyewear. Use the code SundayFootyShow at rickseyewear.com.au for express shipping and 20% discount on eyewear and apparel. Flying through here and a meal at Platform 28, our favourite pub right here in Docklands. Over to you, Lauder.
Now, Chris has had 35 seconds to construct an answer now.
Common sense, no 50.
Kane, he's turned into a real pro, hasn't he? Yeah, not a 50 for me.
Okay.
But I heard Lee Matthews say it wasn't a 50, so I just deferred.
All right, terrific
Sorry,
stuff.
Lottie, you thought it was.
I thought it should have been, yeah. I've seen them paid many times before.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say in support of the umpires is my understanding of that rule is it's about time wasting. And if the umpire thinks you've deliberately wasted time, he should pay it. And if he thinks it's a mistake, he shouldn't.
All right, good stuff. Always nice to have you in here.
Likewise.
Thanks very much.
Good luck for the rest of the year.
Chris Scott joining us on the Sunday Footy Show.